Hello, everybody out there in Internet Jazz Land. My name is Jan. I'm the Jazz and Blues audiophile, and I'm with you once again for another episode where we continue our exploration of some of the recorded output of the great Benny Goodman throughout his whole career, which spans almost 60 years. So, before I go on, if you like these little surveys, recorded music surveys that I try to put out there where I get you to have an opportunity to listen to some of the stuff that the artist put out over his whole career, some of the recordings they put out, so that you can maybe decide to go out and purchase some of this material. Well, be sure and put a thumbs up down below. Leave a comment in the comment section. I usually reply if, in a short amount of time. And subscribe to my channel. Why not? I mean, I put out some of these programs that's not on a very regular basis. I can't say I'm regular every week or every 2 weeks. I'm a little bit sporadic in my in my making of these episodes, but I keep putting them out there pretty much throughout the whole year. And so we're looking at the great Benny Goodman. We're looking at some of his recorded output. And last program, we looked at the release of the Benny Goodman story. Now, the release of that movie, along with the accompanying soundtrack, sort of revived and revitalized Benny's career, which was not at an end in any way, shape, or form. It was not. His career was not at an end back in 1956 when the movie was released. I mean, he was still very, very much on the music scene, touring, giving concerts. He was not as touring as heavily as he was during the big band era than during the swing era, because that was a different thing. He was earning his living back then. He was making his money. He could retire. In the 50s, sincerely, Benny, if he would have wanted to, could have retired completely from the music scene. Other musicians did it, like Artie Shaw, for instance, who stopped recording altogether in 1954. But Benny was very much still alive and well and kicking and recording and touring with small groups and the occasional big band here and there. And he was also active in the classical realm, playing some classical music. And he was just keeping himself busy and producing some great music as he had during the whole swing era. Now, the nice thing that happened, and the great thing for music fans and Benny Goodman fans today, is that before Benny passed away in June of 1986, just a few months before, he had made arrangements to leave all his music career-related material to the Yale University. It was going to be all put out or filed and registered and cataloged in the Yale University archives. And so early on, after his death, this material was delivered to Yale University. Now, Benny had two residences. He had an apartment in New York City, along with a small recording studio. He also had a house in, I forget where his house was. Was it Rhode Island? I forget, I'd have to look it up. But anyway, he also had a house, and a small recording studio with that house. And in those two residences, well, he had a whole bunch of music-related materials. So whether they be arrangements, whether they be pictures, whether they be private recording tapes. He had a bunch of music-related material. He had his clarinets. He had, just everything that was linked to his musical career. And he donated all that in his will to Yale University. So about 5 truckloads of material were delivered in late 1986 to Yale University. And Yale gave the responsibility of the music part, the release of the musical recordings, to the great specialist jazz writer and specialist Leon Schoenberg. I don't know if I pronounced his last name right, but he's an expert on Benny. And since a lot of these private recordings, these private tapes, these reel-to-reel tapes, were not always necessarily well identified as to the recording venue and the date and everything, he had to listen to those and try and determine sometimes what the recording time was and what the group, what setting, what year, etc. And the personnel was not always easy, but he did a great job. And they started releasing a lot of this stuff as early as 1988, I think, for the first releases. So about 2 years after Benny's passing. And that's what's one of those volumes is playing in the background here. And I'm going to let you hear some of that in more detail. A couple of extracts from that. But this is it here. This is, all right, this is the Music Masters release. So I bought this way back in 1993 as a part of a box set. It's a 5 CD box set. I lost the box and I lost the booklet, but fortunately I have the CDs. But this was a 5 CD box set. The last volume, volume 5, being a double CD, and so 6 CDs altogether. And it's the first part of the release of some of these private recordings that Benny left to Yale University. There's some gems on there. This collection, if you decide to go out and purchase these CDs or records, they were also on vinyl LPs, you are going to get some recordings spanning pretty much from 1936 all the way to 1986. Live recordings, studio recordings, just about any kind of recordings. Some recordings were done right into at Benny's home in his own private studio. But the great thing about this is it was never released before. So prior to 1988, nobody ever heard this. This was not on record anywhere. And Yale has the exclusive rights of distributing this, as the licensing rights and all that. And the profits go to Yale University in order to help them manage Benny's large collection of material that he left. Now, they started cataloging all that way back in late 1986. I imagine all the cataloging is finished by now, since we're in 2022. So if you want to research, if anybody wants to do some serious research into Benny's career and his musical stuff and all that, well, that's the place to go. Yale University is the place to go and do that kind of work. So anyway, the volume I'm going to play you, there's some extracts I'm going to play you here from are from volume 2 of the release. And now I just want to mention here that you have to be very careful when you go out and you decide to buy this series, if you want to get these recordings, because they've been issued and put out by 3 different companies. And if you start collecting the volumes in one company, because you can buy all these as separate volumes, and I think they got a total of 10 volumes. This is volume 2 here I'm holding in my hand, but there's 10 volumes in the Yale University Music Library releases on Music Masters Jazz label. This is there's 10 volumes, and there's 10 volumes on the other companies also that release them. But if you start buying on Music Masters, be sure to stick with Music Masters, because the volumes do not correspond in between companies. So here, volume 2 is the Live at Basin Street recording, whereas if you go to the Nimbus Records, which is a record label out of UK, that's also releasing these same recordings from Yale, well, their volume 2 might be a completely different recording. And they've also got it on there's another company in USA releasing these called the MHS, Musical Heritage Society Records Company, that's also reissuing these recordings from the Yale Music Library. Again, they're using a different numbering procedure, so their volume 1 volume 2 and volume 3 do not necessarily correspond to these. So if you start buying Yale Music Masters series, the Music Masters series here, and you've got volume 1, 2, and 3, and then you say, oh, I'm going to get 4 and 5 in the Nimbus Records release. Well, be careful. You might be buying volume 1 and 2 again, and that's their volume 4 and 5 for them, the contents. So that's just a little warning I want to give out to everybody. Be sure that you're aware that there's different companies issuing these, so if you're buying on one company, you better stick to that same label. Nevertheless, getting to the music. Benny, in 1955, live at Basin Street. This was recorded. This is volume 2 on the Music Masters label. This is the extract I'm going to let you hear here, a couple of numbers from this one. And here's the personnel, the great personnel that Benny surrounds himself with. Always some great stuff on these recordings. He's got with him on this particular session, this particular live show at the small club on Basin Street, the Basin Street Jazz Club. Ruby Braff is on trumpet. Herbie Green is on trombone. The great Paul Quinichette is on tenor saxophone. Teddy Wilson, the unmistakable Teddy Wilson, on piano. Perry Lopez is on guitar. The great Milt Hinton is on bass. And Bobby Donaldson is on the drums. And this is just a really, really great show by Benny. He's going to play on this mostly all classics from the swing era. Here's just to give you the numbers that are on this disc. There's Let's Dance, of course, the introduction we just heard a little while back. Honeysuckle Rose, Running Wild, Mean to Me, Memories of You, Stomping at the Savoy, Blue and Sentimental, featuring the great Paul Quinichette on tenor. 1 O'Clock Jump, I Found a New Baby, Stairway to the Stars, Body and Soul, Airmail Special, Nice Work, If You Can Get It, Sing, 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 and Goodbye. Of course, all classics, most of these associated with Goodman himself. And if not, associated to the great swing era of the 1930s and 40s. So this is pretty classic material, classic swing stuff, but it's great stuff featuring some great musicians. You want to hear some great jazz? Well, here's an extract of Benny swinging real hard on the clarinet on Runnin' Wild. Number he recorded many times during his career. Great Teddy Wilson at the piano. Now the nice thing about this, on this particular number, and a lot of numbers, the musicians have got a lot of stretching space. They're not confined to a time constraint. They are really, just playing loose, letting it rip, and Benny's going to swing on this one. He's going to really let loose on his clarinet, and you can see the fluidity, the incredible fluidity that Benny had on his soloing is amazing. Here he goes. Keep going, Benny. Keep going. Milt Hinton on the bass. So I want to hear some good jazz. Music Masters Editions, Yale University Music Library release of Benny Goodman private recordings. Listen to that. Bobby Donaldson on the drums. Benny's off again. Yeah, so you see, that's what I mean when we talk about Benny's great fluidity at the clarinet and the speed and the facility, the ease of execution. Benny spent hours and hours and hours every day practicing. Everybody that knew him knows that. His wife testifies to it. The hours spent at home practicing in the living room over and over. His daughters speak of it also. So this guy was well rehearsed. He was well practiced. He was always, just picked up his clarinet and started coming out, like there's no tomorrow. He could really, really swing. And that was a great demonstration example of his great fluidity that he still had in 1955. He never really lost it. I mean, he kept it right up until the end. His solos, of course, back in the late 80s were probably less extended. But still, he had great fluidity and just a great way of playing, and still was really, really a force to be reckoned with on the clarinet. And I believe Benny is one of the great clarinetists of the 20th century, no matter which style of music you consider. Of course, he was also recording a lot of classical stuff during his career, parallel to his jazz career. And he was very well appreciated also in the classical repertoire domain. So you've got some terrific music on this CD release, on all these CD releases of the Yale University Music Library archives. You won't find these anywhere else. I highly recommend them, of course. And just going to let you hear a couple of things. You hear some great jazzmen, like the great Paul Quinichet here, who's playing with Benny. He's featured here. He does a version of Blue and Sentimental, the classic number from the Basie Band, done back in I think it was 1936 or 37. Here's his version, and it only lasts 2 minutes 43. I'm going to play it all because it's a beautiful, beautiful rendition on his saxophone of this great classic from the swing era. So here it is. Here it is. The great Paul Quinichet, Blue and Sentimental. Just a beautiful, relaxed tone on that saxophone. So, again, beautiful, beautiful rendition here by the great Paul Quinn-Nichette on tenor saxophone of the classic Blue and Sentimental from Count Basie, a classic from the big band era. So anyway, there's a lot of great tracks on this. I'm not going to play them all. I'm going to leave you here with a little extract from the classic, the number that was always being requested of Benny wherever he played. And of course, you can guess which one I'm alluding to. It was the great Sing, 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 What a Swing. And here it is. Live at Basin Street, March 26, 1955. So once again, this has been another episode of the Jazz and Blues Audiophile, featuring the recorded output of the great, the legendary, the King of Swing, Benny Goodman. So this gives you a little snapshot, a little audio snapshot of what Benny sounded like in the mid-50s, 1955, in a live setting, in a small group setting. So, you heard it here, folks. And why do you hear it here? Let me tell you why you hear it here. And you can hear these long extracts. It's because I'm not doing it for the money. I'm not doing it for the money, honey. I am doing this on YouTube, these little episodes, just because I am a completely nut job jazz fan, and I love jazz music, and I would love for more people to discover this great American art form, this great music that spread all over the world and left us a fantastic array of great legendary musicians that were performing this music. And Benny Goodman is one of them, and so I play these. I'm not being monetized on YouTube, and that is why I'm allowed to play long extracts of music without being censored on YouTube, because if I was being monetized, I would be censored. It would be all over. I wouldn't even be able to put out 2 episodes with everything I play in audio format, because you're not allowed to. These are, of course, it's not my, I don't own the rights to this music, of course. I'm just sharing it out there as a music fan, and for no monetization at all, so I'm not making a profit from it. In that respect, that's why I'm allowed to broadcast this on YouTube, put it out there on YouTube for you to hear, so that you can get a taste, a little audio sampling of this great music, some of this great music, the great artists that did it. And right now I'm doing Benny Goodman. I'm doing a series on Benny Goodman. Next series will be on another jazz artist. But it gives you a taste, and it gives you a sampling, and maybe initiates you and gets you to start appreciating this wonderful music called jazz. And if you do appreciate it and you do like it, maybe you'll go out and buy some of it and actually get some of that music for yourself, like this great CD series of on Music Masters jazz label, the release of these private recordings from Benny Goodman private collection from the Yale Music Archives. So listen to that. Some great soloing. Some great soloing. But all the artists on Sing, Sing, Sing. There's Paul on the saxophone. So I'm going to leave you on this note, on this great soloing. And I'm going to leave you with the same words I always say every time I close an episode. People, don't forget to jazz on, and jazz on some more. I'll see you in the next episode. We're going to keep on looking at Benny's recorded output of the 50s. We'll feature a little bit more music from the 1950s by the great Benny Goodman. So, until then, see you later, people. Jazz on. Take care. See you next episode. Don't forget to subscribe. Or leave me a comment. Bye-bye.